Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another episode of a No Frills video. How you doing? I'm Jan, and welcome to the Save Money and More with Jan channel. How you doing today? A few years ago, I was baking a cake, and if you look at the boxed cake directions, some directions vary. Some, depending on the mix you buy, depending on the brand. Some brands require 3 large eggs and like a third cup of oil, or some even a little bit more than that. And I asked myself, do I really need that many extra ingredients in this box cake mix? Now, don't get me wrong, baking is a science, and I'm sure that their company perfected their recipe over time. Excuse my little cough. Thank you. Perfected their recipe over time. But I said, I don't mind conducting an experiment to see, do I absolutely need, for example, because oil can run up your grocery bill, and to keep using a third or half a cup or whatever of oil, and do I really need all those extra calories in the cake, the extra like the oil? So I decided to conduct an experiment with one of these box cake mixes, and I used just, hold on to your seat. This one wanted originally 1/3 cup of oil, right? Vegetable oil. So what did I use instead? A couple of capfuls, like the cap that's on the top of the oil bottle. That's how I literally measured it. A couple of capfuls, which couldn't be more than like 2 tablespoons of the vegetable oil versus 1/3. And like I said, some box cake mixes require like almost like a half a cup. I'm like, really? The other thing I want to mention is some require they usually say large eggs, if I'm not mistaken. 3 eggs, really? I'm like, do I really need that? So I would reduce it. If it says 3 eggs, I would reduce it to 2. If it says 2 eggs, I would reduce it to 1. And in my baking experience, and with the way I enjoyed the cake, it turned out totally fine, fluffy, high, etc. I think sometimes we're conditioned to think that certain things should always be put for extra in a recipe. And as it turned out, I pretty much reduced a lot of the expensive ingredients by about half. So that's when I started to consider this experiment was about at least 20 years ago. Okay. That's when I came up with Jan's rule of half. Now, if you're brand new here, of course, welcome, 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 like I always say. But you may not have heard of my rule of half. Now, considering cake mix again, generally speaking, we get 2 rounds, 2 layers, okay, of the cake. And I have oftentimes on the channel, but if you're new, you don't know this, you've not heard me say this. Instead of making one cake with 2 layers, one can make 2 separate cakes with 1 layer, okay, which stretches it out longer than you think. Put the other prepared layer in the freezer for whenever you want it. Just take it down and just top the top part with the frosting. And I'm telling you, it's less calories. It's more stretching. You see where I'm going with this. It is absolutely amazing. So then I have discovered other ways with this rule of half, and it is just so simple. Lots of times, like when people say you have to use X number of stick of butter, like as part of a topping on something, I might reduce it and get away with it. If a recipe says it requires milk, I might swap it out. Instead of milk, put a little bit of water. And I have had just the same result. This has been my experience. Try to find simple ways where you could reduce or cut down or even half certain situations, certain recipes, and that will definitely stretch out your grocery budget that much better. Don't forget to come back in the future for another No Frills episode, and don't forget to click like, share, and subscribe to the channel.